Well, good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission of August 20th, 2015. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Deaver?
Here.
Oshagan?
Here.
Sahakian?
Here.
Sharikian?
Yes.
Chairperson Derhovanesian.
Here.
The agenda for the August 20th meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on August 14th, 2015.
Okay, next item, please.
Item 2, consent items. At 2A, approval of meeting minutes from June 18th, 2015.
Do I have any motion? Any questions? No?
Have any questions? I make the motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
A second? You seconded? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Deaver?
Yes.
Oshagan?
Yes.
Sahakian?
Yes.
Sharikian?
Yes.
Chairperson Derhovanesian.
Yes.
Item 3, introductions and presentations. At 3.1a, presentation of Mayor's Commendation to Stephen Lee, presented by Chair Derhovanesian.
Should I just from here or should I go there? Okay. It says, in appreciation of your service with the Glendale Arts and Culture Commission since 2007, your congenial presence, thoughtful commentaries, and collaborative spirit have been invaluable to vision and identity of the Commission. On behalf of the City of Glendale, thank you for your exceptional service. Mayor Ara Najarian.
It feels really strange to be on this side of the podium. I wanted to thank fellow commissioners for a wonderful work that we've been going through and put through and accomplished. I want to first and foremost thank former Commissioner Zen Lopez, who put me to follow her footsteps into this position. And also to thank former Councilman / Mayor Dave Weaver for keeping me on this appointment. It's been a really good learning experience and heartfelt work that we've accomplished through the few years that we've been here, that I've been here. Congressman Adam Schiff sends his regards and also has a proclamation for me. Unfortunately, he can't be here, so I have to go pick it up. So thank you for Congressman Adam Schiff, and thank you all. And remember, if you need any committee members for open studio tour or anything else, I'm available. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner Lee, I would like to say that our former Commissioner Lee, but our forever friend of the Commission. Thank you for all the good service on behalf of the Commission. I want to thank you. Really, you have been so genuine, so involved, and so caring about everything that you're doing. You're a good supporter, good friend in every possible way. And you have been a pleasure and a treasure to work with. Thank you.
And then I'm hoping to be appointed in a couple of weeks to the Building and Fire Appeal Commission. So we'll see how that works out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Okay, next.
At 3B, introduction of Sean Sahakian, Commissioner, Arts and Culture Commission.
Good afternoon, commissioners, members of the public, staff. While we're very sad to see Stephen go, you've given us much over your years and my years with the commission. We thank you for that. We are pleased to introduce Shant Sahakian to the commission as our new commissioner. And Shant, I think everyone knows, has been a very active member of our community, and we're excited that this is added to what he's already doing for the Glendale community. Shant graduated from Cal State Northridge with a BA in Art and Graphic Design. He's currently the president of Sedna Solutions, an internet marketing, website design, mobile app design, branding and communication services and consulting. So your background is well suited to the commission. As I said, much participation in the community: Essentia, Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, Glendale Young Professionals, Glendale Youth Alliance, and Glendale Kiwanis. And as he said in his application, as a commissioner, I will serve as an advisor to the council, promote art programs and activities, help support local artists and art-based organizations, and many other opportunities. I'm pleased to welcome you, Shant, to the commission. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And on behalf of the commission, I would like to welcome you to be on board with us. We have wonderful people here sitting with us, and it would be a pleasure to work with you and to get all your input on a lot of issues that happens in our community.
Thank you.
Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Well, actually, first I want to thank Commissioner Lee. In our conversations, I can already see the passion you've had for this commission, so I will do my best to carry on your torch moving forward, and hopefully we'll have future opportunities to work together. I'm excited to be here. The arts and different cultural experiences in Glendale have kind of made me who I am today, both professionally and personally. I'm very grateful for all the opportunities I've had over the years, going all the way back to, I think one of my first art classes was at Brand Studios, just learning how to sketch, and that kind of turned into a career in design. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm looking forward to serving the community in this capacity, and looking forward to working with all the commissioners and staff moving forward. So thank you all.
Welcome.
Next item.
Welcome.
Would you like to say something?
No, that's good.
Next item, please.
At 3C, Glendale International Film Festival, presented by Velvet Roads.
Commissioner Der Hovnessian, commissioners, city staff, this is the second year of this exciting international film festival. It'll be running at the end of September, 25, 26, and 27, up at the MGM 5-Star Cinema, and we have Velvet Roads. Talk about it.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm so excited to be here to present to you the Glendale International Film Festival 2015. We are going to start out with our opening night at the Alex Theatre on September 24th, where we will be screening our opening night documentary, Vintage Glorious Glendale, which is a very, very interesting documentary all about the city of Glendale. And then we will carry on over the weekend, 25th, 26th, and 27th, at the MGM 5-Star Cinema, where we will be screening films from around the world, and with a great emphasis on filmmakers here in the Glendale area. We're also having a screenplay reading contest. Last year was our first year, and we had 2 days of films. This year, we have 4 days of films. And I wanted to, there we go. I wanted to let you know about the screenplay reading contest, because it is a really enriching and adventurous and entertaining experience. We have also a number of filmmakers coming from India, China, Spain, France. So it will bring a lot of people here to the Glendale area. Our awards show will be on September 27th at the MGM 5-Star Cinema. It should be very, very interesting, because most of our sponsors will be giving awards to the best feature film, the best short film, the best screenplay. We're also being awarded the certificate of recognition from the California State Legislature for service to the community for the 43rd District, presented by Mike Gatto's office. And that will be on the opening night, September 24th, at the Alex Theater. I do hope you can all attend. Thank you.
Thanks for coming and sharing this with us and with our audience. Meanwhile, I wanted to ask, for these presentations that you have, if our school district students participate, is there a fee? Is there a ticket? How does it work?
Well, for our student films, for the local area, they can submit their films for free.
Okay.
We do have a submission Film Freeway website where people in the community can submit their films, and there are small fees for it. Our deadline for submissions is August 28th, so we have quite a few submissions. But for the student films in the local area, we welcome them and we will screen them.
And not only for them to introduce their films, if they want to come and learn as a learning experience, because you are having these great movies and then you have producers and famous people who have been involved. If they want to come and learn more about the process and etc., but since they are students still, is there a fee for coming to the theaters, to Alex or to MGM, or could they have a pass on
We
that?
do. We can issue them a pass. For the Alex Theater, we have reduced prices for students. We have, for the ticket price, I think it's about $6, something like that. But for the film festival, we can issue them a free pass.
Thank you very much. I'll be in touch. I need to talk some authorities and then find out what we are going to do. But
Very good.
we'll
It would be a welcome addition. That'd be really, really
answer.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure. I think there are some questions here.
Yes.
Yeah, so I read here that sort of you're trying to focus on scientific bent, environmental, or films with a message, and I think that's really good because I think you'd want to separate yourself from film festivals in Burbank, or obviously AFI is the big one around here. And so is that really sort of panning out with your film festival?
Yes, actually we are getting a lot of very interesting documentaries which explore scientific invention. We have several films which are focusing on the environmental issues, and also we're looking for films that say something. You know, it's not a action adventure film festival. It's a very international film festival, but we are looking for films that are saying something
The message.
positive and doing something to enlighten people as to issues going on, or just different ideas. And a lot of musicals too.
Thank you. Musicals.
Musicals and comedies, because I think we need more laughter, and we need more music. And the festival last year we had just so many wonderful films. This year we have about 300 films, which we haven't all accepted yet, but they're all wonderful, and so it's going to be really hard to weed out because we have 3 days of programming. But I'm hoping that we can just, if I had my way, I would show them all because they're all beautiful and they're all wonderful.
A couple questions. One is, do you have an idea of how many have been submitted from folks in Glendale?
I would say we have about 100.
Great.
100. That's a combination: screenplay,
Sure.
films, feature films.
And my other question for us and for the general public is on your website information about the schedule, and if anybody
yes.
still wants to submit something, and then are tickets available then through the Alex or through your website? So a little bit more about that would be helpful on the website address. Would be
Right.
great.
What we're doing with the scheduling of the films, the Crescenta Valley Weekly is going to publish our program. So everyone will have a copy of the scheduling, the films listed. What we usually do with the film listings is we post who has been accepted on our Facebook page and on our website. The ticketing for the Alex Theater is alextheater.org, Vintage Glorious Glendale. You can see it on their website. The tickets are $10, and you can purchase them at the Alex Theater. That is for the opening night, screening, welcome party, and then for the rest of the festival, you can purchase your tickets at the MGM 5-Star Cinema. We also have weekend passes, day passes, weekend and day, yeah. And you can purchase those at my website, velvetroadsproductions.com. The weekend pass will be $200, and that includes the opening night, all the films, the award show, everything. The day passes are $50, so you can just go to one day, or and if you don't want to purchase those passes, the tickets are $15 for a 2-hour block of films, and you can purchase those individually. So you have quite a good selection of ways to attend the film festival.
Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
First of all, thank you very much for stopping by and presenting this amazing event. I haven't heard this one before. How long's been going on in Glendale?
Last year was our first year, and we had 2 days at the MGM 5-Star Cinema. We were sold out both days. We had an opening night on one day where we did our screenplay reading contest.
And my second question is, the award ceremony, is it open to public, or are there any admission tickets need to be purchased?
The entire festival is open to the public. The awards show, if you wish to attend it, you can purchase a ticket separately, just for the award show.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming again, and wonderful information.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. It's so exciting. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next item.
At 3D, Library Arts and Culture events presented by Chuck Wyke, Community Relations Manager.
Chair Derhovanessian, commissioners, city staff, I have a number of programs to talk to you about. I'm just going to go ahead. Not working? Tell you what, I'll start with maybe the hardest to describe. The Central Library is in the middle of the beginning of a 1.5-year renovation. We started last month, July, and we're going to go until about January 2017. We will remain open while that construction is going on. So I go to work and I hear jackhammers and sawing. What we're going to do is close the building until 2:30 in the afternoon, starting the end of August 31st. So basically, from September on, we will open our front doors at 2:30. The children's room will stay open in the morning. They still have programs, and it's right now it's at the other end of where the construction is. But for the most part, will be closed. We've got a couple of branches that we're going to open earlier in the mornings during the Monday through Friday. But the Central Library itself will open later in the day, and we will stay open till 10 at night, Monday through Thursday. So 2:30 to 10 will be closed Fridays, and then Saturdays we will open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we're losing some hours, but we're gaining some weekend hours, and I think the school year has started, and we'll have lots of students in there, I believe. And if we don't, we'll change those hours to accommodate when we can get the most people in. Oops, that's better. Oh, okay. The two libraries that are going to be open mornings, Monday through Friday, are the Library Connection at Adams Square that you're familiar with, right next to the gas station mini park, and the Casa Verdugo Library, which is up on North Brand. So those are the branches that are closest to the Central Library. So their hours are definitely changing. We may miss some of the, let's say, the computer time at the Central Library, but we've shipped a bunch of little Chromebooks and computers to our little branches. So if people want to use Wi-Fi, they'll be able to get it there. We were actually forced to close early last week because of the noise. So we set up our own internet cafe out in front, rolled tables out there, and made some coffee and had cookies, and it went really well. The internet went out the front door, obviously, but the people were especially happy. So let's see, I'll start from the beginning of the old show. Here we have the Aztec Dance Group is going to be at the Brand Library this Friday, August 21 at 7 p.m. I am told that we will have a visit from the office of Assemblyman Mike Gatto, and the office has promised to dance if invited up when they give a certificate. So if you're in the neighborhood, come on up at about 7:50 and we'll see who's dancing with the Aztec dancers. Also at Brand Library, next week we have a book talk on the costumes, the dress at the court of Louis XVI, called Fashion Victims. That's August 27th, 7 p.m. at Brand Library. On the 28th will be the final program of our Outdoor Plaza concert series. This is the final of the 13-week series. This is a Afro-Latin jazz group, Topaz 22. They'll be performing, and it's been a remarkable 13 weeks. I'll report on that next month, but we've had a lot of successes, and we've learned a little bit about our audience too during that program. Interesting. The brand associates are holding an art and music sale. They used to do this a while back, when this is the first sort of lengthy one they've had in a while up at Brand Library, and the art and music sale will be open Friday night during the concert performance too. So we're gonna pitch that to the audience and see if they'll buy some CDs or books or whatever. Brand 43 Works on Paper. That's an annual juried exhibition put on by the Associates of Brand Library. This year's curator is Kent Twitchell, famous for his murals from the 60s and 70s on. You may know this one. That's you can see off the 110 freeway. That's Kent Twitchell's work from a number of years back, but he actually has exhibited at Brand in his early work. He's the juror. They've selected a number of works, and they'll put them on exhibition next month. Music animated. We also have programs for children at Brand Library, children and families. So September 12th, Saturday in the morning, we have the Beat Buds that'll come out. They're a duo that sing and perform and really get the kids working with music and play and so forth. There's also an opera talk that same day, September 12th, in the afternoon. We have speakers from the LA Opera that come out and do talks about their current season. So again, here's our Central Library renovation. That's a rendering what I guess it's going to look like in a year and a half. The front doors will be on Harvard, so that's Harvard. Looking at it from across the street there on Maryland. Here's a nice shot of the ribbon cutting. We had some nice book characters. We will bring them back in a year and a half. Just to give you an idea, if you haven't been in the Central Library, that kind of square area left of center is the reference desk at the end of July. You can see it's been roped off. It looks like this today. There's a giant, and that's a canvas of, if there ever was one, it's a giant plastic enclosure. It's plastic, so it doesn't keep out the sound. I still hear the jackhammers and sawing, but it has some possibilities. We asked the contractors not to put their logos and such on that. So maybe there's a way we can use it. One of our staff is already trying to figure out how to show films on it. I'm not sure if it's going to get dark enough. Yeah, slideshows. We'll see. We'll see how that works. But about 60% of our collection is now in storage from the central library. So the fact that those other libraries are open in the morning is a good thing. You can't get past there to the book stacks in the back. That's what you see when you walk in the door. It's massive. It's really interesting. Again, our new hours, 2:30. Children's room will be open in the mornings. Saturday, Sunday will be closed Friday. That's the big one to remember. That starts at the end of this month. The Casa Verdugo, again, they've got some early morning hours. They're open Fridays and Saturdays. They've changed their hours along with the Library Connection. I don't expect anybody to remember all this, but if you can remember a couple of phone numbers, 2020, 548-2020 is our recorded information. We're in the process of updating that, so everything makes sense with what we're doing. You can also call library administration and talk to me at 548-2030. We've got a website, glendalelac.org, or you can catch us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. It'll be a fun year and a half, and I'll report periodically and let you know what's going on.
Thanks for the update. It was very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions, any comments on that? Okay, next item. Okay, since we have for oral communication, I have several cards here. I would like to invite Joy Foyer from AFTA Production.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to fill up your social calendar today. Just wanted to quickly talk about You Are Here, the temporary art program that you're all very much aware of. And the rundown you should have in your packets, so you don't have to try to keep track of the dates as I rattle off, and it will also be on our website and the city's website very shortly. But coming up, as you know, a Glendale picnic is up and remains up and will be there till next March, unless other arrangements are made. Glendale Wings made their debut at the Glendale Central Library Renovation kickoff, and they will reappear at Cruise Night the 29th next week. From there, they will fly very carefully to Brand Library and Art Center Plaza. And we picked a time frame from September 25th to the 31st to take advantage of works on paper, as you previously saw, and some other programming to really get high traffic visibility for the wings while we get a lot of visitors from inside the city and outside the city. They will go one day from that location to appear on the Glendale Narrows section of the LA River. We reached out to our friends at Parks and Community Services and also the LA River Corp and Walk Bike Glendale. So there will be a 7 a.m., I'll see you all there, right? Bird walk and nature walk, followed by an art talk and a river walk talk. And then Walk Bike Glendale will make it a ride destination. And then the wings will just hang out there till about 6 p.m. on that day for people to encounter and take pictures and just kind of get that scenic moment. And everybody involved is going to promote it on their social networks. And should be a really fun day. So just had to get them out there at least once. Then they will go to, in November, they will go to the Glendale Transportation Center, otherwise known as the train station, and they will be on the platform for pretty much that entire month to greet commuters coming and going on their daily route, which will be a lot of fun. And then they will, in December, we're looking at getting them back into the Civic Center or City Hall area and then determine their fate from there. So by that time, they'll have a lot of stories to tell and hopefully a lot of pictures out there promoting Glendale and this amazing piece by Colette Miller. Water Finds a Way, indeed. The Community Labyrinth, we're very excited about this project. It is scheduled to be up by September 15th. So the next meeting you guys have, I expect you all to walk through the labyrinth to get here, because it'll be right out there in the courtyard. It's a 40-foot interactive, environmentally infused art installation, intersecting the concepts of art and water. We will have a special day on the 27th. We want to have a community gathering. It's the harvest full moon also on that day, kind of a special day for the planet. And we're going to have an artist talk, succulent swap, a lot of labyrinth walking. So if any of that sounds curiously interesting, from 12 to 4, come check that out. And then, if that's not diverse enough for you, on October 14th, we open our yarn bombing installation called Reentry at the Alex Theater. And we've been working with Glendale Arts and the Alex Theater to come up with something very interesting to work into the fold, the creative fold of the 90th celebration of its birthday year. So we've got the Yarn Bombing Los Angeles collective heading this up, and they've engaged collaborations with our own Jewel City Knitters in Glendale, the Fiber Fiends in Burbank, which is one of the best names I've heard, and the Loop in Pasadena. So there'll be a collective of about 18 to 20 individuals that will be contributing to an interior and an exterior piece, and it should be exciting. So we'll have an opening for that, 6 to 8 p.m. on the 14th. So there you have it. So no matter what your creative flavor of choice is, hopefully something in here fits it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Foyer. You keep us very busy, and we are keeping you very busy, I believe.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a common thing. Thank you very much for coming and updating. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Arlene Widor. She wears many hats, but on this one, she wants to represent just community. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. My name is Arlene Vidor. I'm a resident of Adams Hill in South Glendale. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about murals and public art in the context of a statement and some interests that were expressed at a recent tour. The Glendale Historical Society had sponsored a walking tour of Adams Hill recently, and one of the people on the tour looked upon our old water tank, which I think has been around since about 1920, and said, boy, it would really be nice if there was a mural on that, and everybody shook their heads and sounded like it was a good idea. So I started looking at murals. I Googled water tanks and muraling and came up with over 1 million hits, and they were all really nice, all 1 million of them. But I just thought I'd show a few there, and then if you go to the next slide, I'll show you our water tank in Adams Hill. There were 2 of them on this hill. I believe one of them belongs to Glendale and one of them belongs to Los Angeles, and I'm trying to figure out which is which. I put a call into Steve Zern, and he's helping me figure that out. But anyway, you can go to the next slide. And then I envision what it might look like with some art on it, and that happens to be a painting that was done by an artist named Bonnie Lambert, who paints pictures of Adams Hill. So I just thought I'd throw that up there, but not to get too far, get out in front of myself. That wasn't the idea here, but just to put it out in front of you, because I know that you are about to look into developing your master plan for public art over the next a couple years, and there also are funds available for miscellaneous muraling projects, and just wanted to put the idea of some kind of an art piece, simple as it might be or complex as it might be, on this particular structure here, which has been there for so long and is probably very needing of some decoration. And after the success of, well, half of the Adams Square Art in the Park project, which is just ravingly successful and has really brought the community together, I think the community really does crave more art in public places. And on that note, I'll stop, but I just wanted to mention, since Chuck didn't get that far, is that on October 1st, the Brand Library, the Brand Associates, I saw it on their website. They're going to be sponsoring Isabel Rojas Williams, the head of the LA Mural Conservancy, as a speaker who will be coming at 7 o'clock to talk about murals and muraling and the whole regulatory aspect of muraling. She's been so active in LA and getting the ordinances changed, and that kind of dovetails right in with all of this. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Arlene Vidor, thank you very much for participating. The thing is that we do have a plan, but not for the present one, to have murals in public locations. So definitely we would consider that if it is within the domain that we can work. I see Commissioner Deaver has her hand.
Yeah, just a question. How accessible is the water tank? I mean, are there paths up there? Is there a road that goes up there? Is it? I know
I'm not sure. I'm talking to Water and Power, trying to get more information about it because, it's funny. It's in all kinds of historic photos, and even one that's claimed to be a picture of Charlie Chaplin in the circus standing in front of the water tower. So there's, it's been there for a long time, but not a lot is known about it, and it's on a hill by itself. It's very visible. But I don't have that information right now and hope to have it soon.
Yeah, I just want to say from my perspective, I absolutely appreciate these ideas. I know they came from the community, and I thank you for being the voice of that, because I think as we get into our next phase of both the public art plan and then when we start looking taking that and looking more specifically at where murals can be, the conversations have led, these types of ideas are exactly what we need to inform that conversation. So I think that's pretty exciting. So thank you for doing that, and I hope that you'll stay in touch with staff as you gain more information and keep us overall updated about that when we bring this back to the commission.
I'll see what I can find out.
And I do believe that, also since it's one of the historical societies that's under that domain too, right?
Well, no, I don't know if anybody would want to call this a historic landmark, but it's certainly old enough, but it was just coincidental that on a historic tour, looking at historic and old features in the neighborhood, somebody mentioned, mural is what popped into people's minds. And in fact, one person, I think her name was Jolie Wilson, she sent me some pictures of murals on water tanks. She was so inspired by her water tanks. So.
It sounds great. I think we need to talk to a lead person at this point. Cindy, is there any special thing I noticed you want to share, some information?
Well, yeah, well, it just allows me to make a plug for our local history collection at the library. So you might check in with them, too, because they may have some information about it since it's been around for a while. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I'd like to say, and maybe jokingly, it could be considered a utility box.
It is one heck of a big, it's funny that you mentioned that because I was going to say, after the success of the utility box, public utilities seem to be the obvious great place to put things in. Yes, I think it's a giant utility box, and maybe Mr. Zern would think the same.
So when the time comes, either it could be under the utility box or it could be under the public locations murals that we have both projects already, discussed, but it's within our process.
Well, I'm happy to find out more about it and let you know what I come up with.
We'll be in touch. Thank you for coming and, being so interested and so active about everything in our community. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Next item, I would like to invite Elisa Glickman from Glendale Arts Alex Theater.
It's the camera.
Hi, thank you, members of the commission, city staff, members of the public. As you've probably already heard by now, and as Joy mentioned, it is the Alex's 90th birthday season. We're calling it Alex 90, and we are kicking it off on our actual birthday day on September 4th with a big birthday celebration party at the Alex Theater. I'm passing around save the date postcards, but you should have all received your invitations in the mail for this really exciting event. And I wanted wanted to extend an invitation to the Commission as well as the public to go to our alextheater.org/Alex90 webpage, find out more information about the season, about this event, and more importantly, about our very exciting and special project, the relighting of the Alex Theater Tower. So just to kind of bring you up to speed, we're in the process of raising $75,000 to renovate and rehabilitate our Alex Theater Tower spire, which is the 100-foot neon tower that lives and is the beacon on Brand Boulevard. We are more than 50% towards our goal, and the project is more than 80% complete. So the neon has been replaced, the chaser lights are being worked on, painting is done, and next week the refurbishing and rewiring of the ball that sits on top will be completed. The tower is expected to go completely dark on August 26th, and then completely relit at 9:04 p.m. At our birthday celebration at the Alex Theater. So again, I hope that you all will join us and be able to attend this really exciting time. And we also have some really wonderful shows as a part of our 90th season, and we will be announcing those that evening as well. So thank you so much.
Any questions? No. Next item, please.
Item 5, business agenda. At 5A, action item. 5A1, motion to recommend a participant to the at-large artist selection committee for the Arts Colony housing project.
Chair Derhovanesian, commissioners, city staff, this motion concerns the Arts Colony project. It's a 70-unit affordable housing unit at 121 North Kenwood Street for local artists. That began in February 2015, and the intent of the project is to give artists a place to live near the downtown Glendale Arts and Entertainment District. Preference will be given to residents with low income. They've got to be artists living, working, creating, or performing in Glendale. There'll be a gallery space incorporated into the project, and this Arts Colony is a joint venture between Glendale Housing Authority, the Glendale YMCA, and Meta Housing Corporation. Now, for the Arts Commission, once a household is deemed income qualified, an artist selection committee will interview prospective tenants to determine if they are eligible for the artist household preference. The applicants will be required to provide evidence to the committee that they produce or perform artistically, creatively, and are actively engaged in their creative fields. Community development staff recommends the artist selection committee include one local artist who, because of their income, would not qualify as a tenant at the Glendale Arts Colony. There is no fiscal impact, but there's some work to be done, and we have Mike Fortney from the Housing Department here.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mike Fortney, the city's housing project manager. We put together a PowerPoint presentation. I thought it would be good, especially with a new commissioner, to just kind of talk the basics about the project, and then I'm going to ask Meta Housing to come up, both Michelle and Maureen with Engage to come up. So I'll just give a couple minute presentation. And this works, right? Yes, okay. So the Glendale Arts Colony, it's just 3 blocks west of where we're at right now. You go down Wilson or Broadway. You can see there in pink, that's where the building is. It's part of the YMCA campus, so it's right next to it, and then you can see the post office there on Broadway. Project vision, I'm just going to briefly touch on this. This was one of the conceptual designs by the architect early on. You can see up to the top, that's where the library is. And then probably point you to the SRO is that light yellow one on the corner there. Does this thing point to? Yeah, it does. But you can't see it. So you point, but yeah, it doesn't move. Okay, so on the corner there, you can see the light yellow. That's the SRO, the 4-story SRO building. And then just to the right of that other yellow building, that's the gym facility, right? Right now, that's all parking where you see trees. And anyway, that's going to be all cleaned up. And then that red 2-story structure there, that's the gallery. So that's part of this Arts Colony project. Thank you. So talk a little bit about it. Again, it's part of the YMCA campus. The address will be 121 North Kenwood. I need to talk to building safety. I think the gallery will have a separate address. It's 70 units, and it includes 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, roughly about a third of each. Yeah, Chuck had mentioned this too. There's a preference for artists. You have to be low income. That's a given. You have to be low income to get one of these units. But we're going to give preference to artists. We're going to give preference to people who work in Glendale, and we're going to give preference to people who live in Glendale. So 2 points for an artist, 1 point if you live here, 1 point if you work here, total 4 possible points. I want to talk a little bit about this project. It's the first time we've ever done a project for artists. We have a project that's in construction now called the Veterans Village. It's the first time we've done a project for veterans, well, all veterans. So it's a little bit different, the way we market the project, the way it leases up, things of that sort. So we're doing well on that Veterans Village project. In fact, it should be done next month, and it looks like we will have 100% veterans in that. And that's the idea here, is to get 100% artists into this building. Although, if we don't get that, we don't get a sufficient number of applications that are that would be eligible for the project, we will fill it with non-artists. But this also has amenities that most affordable housing projects don't have, including a 1,000-space art gallery. We got what's called a maker space. And it'll have a pottery wheel and kilns, things of that sort. Kilns, sorry. We'll have a digital and media lab. It says music room. There's actually 2, performing arts room, and then you'll meet Maureen from Engage in a little bit. So that's kind of interesting. And you're going to see floor plans to see kind of how that all lays out. Just talk a little bit about the unit mix and affordability. So there are a number of 1 bedrooms. Looks like 14, right? 6 of which are lofts, and they're going to be pretty cool. They're going to be along the street. In fact, if you go over there now, you'll see the podium is constructed, subterranean structure is constructed. They're starting to frame that first floor now. It's big. It's big. But you'll see, basically, you can see from the street right where those lofts are going. And then this gives you the general idea of what the square footage of each of the units are going to be. And then people always ask me, well, how much are these going to cost in rent? And it's kind of funny. Anytime you ask a simple question about affordable housing, you always get this most complex answer. It's because an affordable housing project, particularly a tax credit project, we target 30, 40, 50, 60, and then just for fun, 35, 45. We really like to complicate things. That range of income. So depending on your household size, depending on your income range, your rent could be in a range of things. So this gives you an idea. A 2-bed could go for no less than $560. A 1-bed could go for as little as $544. And then the most expensive rents in the building would be some of the 3 beds at $1,295. I believe average 1-bedroom in the city of Glendale is about $1,500. So it's a pretty good deal. And then for folks to qualify, that's another one of those complicated questions. It depends, people ask, well, how much money can I make? And again, it depends on your household size. So if you're a 1-person, your max income for that 30% unit, that $540 1-bedroom, would be roughly $17,430. I say roughly because it changes every year. And by the time this project gets in place, these numbers will not be the same numbers. They'll probably be off by about 2%. That seems typical. So, but for like a family of 4 that's looking at one of these 3 bedrooms, or a 2 bedrooms, or a family of 5 looking at one of the 3-bedroom units, you could potentially earn up to a little over $50,000 and still qualify for the unit. Tenant preferences. Now, I forgot the slide was here, so I already hit on this, but I'll do it again. 2 points for artists, 1 point if you live, and 1 point if you work in Glendale. So that's how we'll do it. So once we determine that you're income qualified, and we look at some other qualifications, then we'll go through and see who has these points and who doesn't. And then we'll talk about this a little bit more, but those who certify that they're artists will then go to this artist selection committee for them to determine whether or not, in fact, they are artists. And then I wanted to talk about who is an artist. We want to make this very, very broad. So it says up there, fine arts, imaginative works, aesthetic value, functional art, performance art, pretty much everything. On top of all that, anyone who really demonstrates commitment to the arts, teaches art, could also qualify. So we really want to be very encompassing. Outreach, marketing, and lease up. I believe this is where I agree to turn it over. So Michelle is with Meta Housing. That is the developer of the project. And then Maureen is here also. She's with Engage.
Thank you, commissioners. Let's go back one slide. So when we talk about outreach, marketing, and lease up, we're really talking about a time period that starts about 8 months before the project hits the market. This is tentatively due to receive occupants at the end of August, but it's construction, things slide. So in terms of outreach, we would actually start that in roughly January or February of next year. We had a really extraordinary partner in this for another project that we did in the city of LA, and they were Affordable Housing Partnership for Artists. And it's actually a group that is staffed by the Actors Fund and a partnership that is funded by the National Endowment for the Arts. And their sole purpose is to make sure that artists of all stripes are appropriately educated in what is a tax credit project, what does it take to complete an application for a tax credit project, and what supporting documents you have to have, what timing you have to have as well. They helped us get occupants for another project, as well as some other developers who have put in arts colonies throughout LA. What they do first is that they tap into their own mailing list, the Actors Fund mailing list, to notify interested parties in upcoming workshops. The workshops, like I said, would be January or February. They would also tap into an interest list that we are creating, and one of the asks of you is that we are able to advertise the workshops on the listservs that I know I get from this commission, as well as any partnership organizations that you would like to include. And the workshops are to introduce the project to prospective tenants, to explain the tax credit process and program, and to explain the tenant selection process. Often the questions that come out are about incomes and unstable incomes and how to account for that on applications. But like I said, it's a very complicated process to apply for a tax credit project, so this partnership does their best to make sure that the artists are well educated. This is a timeline of marketing and lease up. The outreach would really be done in January and February, and then applications would go out in March of 2016. Those would come back approximately a month to 2 months later, at which time the property manager on this project would divide the applicants by the applicant packages by private information and art-specific information. And they will take that art-specific information and hand it over to the Artist Selection Committee. And what that package will look like will be a questionnaire that the artists have filled in, a resume that they've submitted, as well as 3 portable works of their art. And that will go to, like we said, the Artist Selection Committee. A member of Meta will be on the committee. A member of the city will be on the committee, as well as a member from your commission that we're hoping that you'll appoint. The YMCA will also be part of the selection committee, and Engage, our wonderful arts service provider, will be on the committee. That is not intended to be an exclusive list. Maureen can tell you more about the tenant selection process or the artist selection process, but we certainly want voices that are interested in getting as high quality a population as possible. The entire role of the Artist Selection Committee is not to judge the art. It is simply to say, yes, this is an artist, or no, this is not an artist, and that is their whole role. They will be educated on fair housing. It'll be about a 2 to 3 hour workshop that they'll have to take to become educated on that. We want to make it as fair a process as possible. The gallery, I am going to tell you about the gallery and then hand over the operations of the gallery to Maureen from Engage. Mike told you where it's located. This just gives you a sense that it's the third wall. It creates a third wall for that parking lot that's between the SRO and the YMCA gym. This gives you a sense of the format within the gallery. It's a simple 1,000 square foot gallery, concrete floors, white walls, restrooms for visitors, storage, as well as walls, movable walls that flow in and out depending on the art that's being shown. Here's a rendering. It's a double height gallery. Here is the art parking lot that's between the YMCA and the SRO and the gallery. We're really hoping that that draws pedestrians in from the Maryland Off-Broadway district. And then here's a photograph of a gallery in our San Pedro project that's already in operations. In gallery operations, I will hand over to Maureen Kellen-Taylor from Engage, who will curate.
Thanks, Michelle. Good afternoon, everybody. It's my great pleasure to be here. I'm a veteran of at least 4 or 5 art colonies with Meta, and I'm very excited about this one, particularly because my family now are Glendale residents, so it brings it even closer to home. I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions. I don't actually like reading because I'm sure you all read very well. I just briefly say that I've worked for Engage for 14 years and specialized in the arts colonies. I'm a long-time arts administrator and even a longer-time artist myself, so I can stand in several pairs of shoes. What we've done in the past in terms of the gallery has been, first of all, to make partnerships with members of the community. I've already reached out to some Glendale artists and asked if they would help advise me, and would gladly take any suggestions you have of organizations or individuals that you think would be very helpful. What we do then is orient them to the project itself and orient them to Engage. We're an unusual nonprofit. We are actually quite well known nationally in the arts and aging field. The NEA has put us on their 10 nationally best practices list. I never get the words in the right order, but you get the idea, right? And so we feel we have a high bar to reach, and we keep on moving it up on ourselves. The family project in San Pedro is a great practice for us for Glendale. So in that case, when we have, coming back to the community, when we bring in community members, we take their advice. They know the community better than us. And then we do one of several things. We either introduce the gallery as it opens to the community by sending out a call for artists. In NoHo, which was Senior Artist Colony, we sent out a call for Life Reimagined was the theme. In thank you. In San Pedro, it was home for the families there. And then we have an exhibit that brings in local artists. When we have a group of artists that are consulting with us, as in Long Beach, our first exhibit is that of the artists, so that they bring their friends in, and to say thank you, because it's all very much unpaid. After we've done that, we often have to orient tenants as to the whole idea of having programs on site. And so we ask them what it is they need, and then we bring in programs people to to provide the kinds of classes. For example, in a family building, it's really important to have after-school classes. And to my chagrin and despair, many public school students don't have the arts. And so we provide that as well as tutoring. In cases where people are really hard up, we've also found free sources of free food and bring those in. Because if someone's hungry or worried about food, we can't really ask them to be creative, or expect them. So, I can go on and on about this because I'm very excited about it, but I bet you have questions, and I'd much rather answer your questions, so.
Okay. Well, I don't know if this is the point, but, well, we are really excited about this. Our community is looking forward to this. Many people have approached me in different capacities to see when and how they could be part of this whole thing. But as a commission, I wanted to say that we would like to be very much involved with this project because this is very close to our heart. And I would like to, as I mentioned before, I would like to have at least 2 people from this commission to be on that for the purpose of diversity and the difference of opinion. And on that, I would like to, if possible, nominate the 2, and then we'll see if everybody else is on board. On this, I would like to nominate myself first because I've been 34 years with this community, working as an educator with Glendale Unified School District, and also as a psychologist counselor, I have been advising the low-income families, so I'm very much in touch with the community besides the art part. And second, I would like to nominate Terry Deaver, who by profession, she has been in the providing housing for the artists. And I think, well, she can elaborate because I see she quenched her eyes, but basically she's in the field that she accommodates and she's very familiar with that part of the deal. So that's my kind of suggestion, and let's see how it works. I don't know.
I would be delighted to work with you both. Absolutely delighted. And are there any other questions? I can make a few more points about the actual running of the gallery, but do you have any more questions?
No, not at the time
at
being.
the moment?
And besides, since we are very familiar, we are following step by step as things are coming along. So I just wanted to make sure if there are any questions and comments. Yes.
Yeah, more about the gallery, the curatorial approach, and how it's going to be, what's going to be exhibited. Is there a certain approach, or it's going to be just kind of general? What's the gallery approach, as I like to know?
Let me see if I can address your question, because that's a very broad approach, has many meanings. We see ourselves as a bridge to the community, and so the gallery is an important part of the bridge. As an artist myself, I understand that artists need to be able to show their work and actually earn from the work they show. So we give calls for paintings. Actually, we're booked up for months ahead because artists want to show their work, particularly because we don't charge a commission. So we have shows that change every 8 weeks or so with openings, the regular openings. And then the artists are expected to present their work ready to be hung, and also with all the contact information necessary so that prospective collectors can contact them directly, and then they can work on the sale. Is that the kind of approach, or are you talking about the selection?
Yeah, the process. Is there going to be a gallery director? Is there going to be the selection from the resident artist, or is it going to be Glendale artist, broader, general artist from LA or international? I mean, what is the curatorial approach to show the work? What work will be shown in the gallery?
Thank you.
The bigger question, yeah.
They're very good questions, and the answer is mostly yes. But I'll elaborate. We do have an on-site creative programs director, and all of our creative programs directors are artists of one stripe or another. I help oversee the gallery because of my past experience. We alternate shows of residence work with shows of work from the community. One of the ideas I had, because I know that there are organizations that don't have ready access to space for exhibits, that perhaps designating 1 or 2 months a year to community arts groups for them to show. I would love to see work from the schools, for instance, shown there. You know, children's art is, makes you feel so good, We may have international artists. We've certainly had international performers come through and perform. We haven't yet been approached by international visual or plastic artists, but we're open to it. Does that answer your question adequately?
Yes.
Oh, good.
I have a question regarding the process of choosing the artist and the application process. I don't know, you will be answering that question or someone else?
Choosing the artist as a resident or choosing the artist as an exhibitor?
No, choosing the artist as a resident.
Okay.
Is there a process how those artists will be chosen, number one, and then who will be the last or body? Is it the city housing department will say, yes, those are the residents, or is this the committee will say the final word for it? Or is it the city council? Who's going to be the final word check on this?
Sure. Let me get back.
To just give you an example, let's say we have 300 applicants, and out of 300, only maybe 20 of them are can apply for it. And out of 20, who's going to give the okay? Is it the housing project, or who's going to be that person in charge?
When the applications come in, they'll go directly to the property management team. And the property management team, let's say, I understand the application process is actually pretty voluminous in the city of Glendale. So let's say there's 2,000 applications, which I'm given to understand.
Probably 5,000 to 6,000.
5,000 to 6,000 applications. And let's say of those 5,000 to 6,000 applications, 70 of them have indicated that they would like a preference under the artist preference. The property management team would pull out 3 things from the application that the applicant will be required to submit. A questionnaire, and the questionnaire is really to get at their thinking behind being part of an intentional community of artists, a resume of their work, and then 3 portable examples of their work. A lesson that we learned with PAC Arts when we did it is that we cannot redact completely the identities of these artists, but we will keep the private information such as social security number and income private. That will stay with the property manager, and an artist selection committee will look at the questionnaire, the resume, and the examples of art. Their sole purpose is to say, yes, this is an artist and gets 2 points towards a preference, or no, this is not an artist and does not get 2 points towards a preference. Once the points are, in addition to the artist points, you can also get points for living and working in the city of Glendale. Those points are determined and verified by the property management team. So when the applications that received the artist preference points go back to the property managers tally the points, and the people with the most preference points are prioritized in the selection process. Did I answer your question?
Close, yeah.
So I'll talk to you real quickly about a typical affordable housing project here in the city, and then how it's a little bit different when you're targeting somebody like an artist or a veteran. Typically, we'll get 150 applications for every door. So I would expect no less than 5,000 applications here, somewhere in that ballpark. What we typically will do is a lottery. We'll do a lottery. In fact, we used to do it here and have it televised. We've gotten away from that a little bit, but we'll do a lottery and just basically pull out the names. People will fill out an application that's pretty easy up front, 1-2 page, and they'll tell us what their income is. Once they're drawn, though, and we might draw, for 70 units, we might draw 300 names, 400 names, however many we think we need to get through it and to have a waiting list at the end of the game. And we'll draw those, and then we'll go much more thoroughly in reviewing their applications and getting all the background information. The developer is responsible for doing that, but the city staff is actually overseeing all that. We have final approval over those folks. Okay, so when you're talking about putting a preference in, and we're doing this with Veterans Village now, so I've seen how this works. What we did with Veterans Village is we did a lottery. We took in applications from everybody, but we did a lottery on the veteran applicants. In Veterans Village, it's a 44-unit project. I believe we had 253 veterans apply. So we said, we think that's enough to fill the 44 units. We probably don't need to go to that general pool of people that aren't veterans but might otherwise qualify. So that's where we're at with that one now. I could see that very well happening here. I don't really know. But if we get, say, 5,000 applications and we only get 100 artists, we'll probably burn through those 100 artists and then have to go to the general. But if we get somewhere like three or four artist applications for every unit, I think we'll probably fill the building with artists. But the ultimate selection of those folks, if there's sufficient numbers and we do the lottery, it's just qualifying them based on the number, right? And city staff ultimately has that, but they're not deciding on a name, they're not deciding anything like that. It's strictly, you were polled first, you qualify, you're in. That's the way it works.
Thank you very much. That's my question.
I think Commissioner Sahakian has questions too.
Yes. First, I'm glad to hear that Veterans Village is doing well in identifying veterans and getting through the application process. But just since artists and art in general were very creative, is there a kind of strict matrix of some sort that defines what is an artist, what isn't an artist for the applications that are coming in? Or are we trusting kind of the selection committee to use their professional experience to identify, what constitutes an artist in the application?
Yeah, early on in the presentation, I had a slide that said, generally what is an artist, and then go beyond that. That's our only kind of guide as to who is or who isn't an artist. And again, we're trying to be very open about it, and performing arts, all kinds of arts. But ultimately, it'll be this artist selection committee that's going to decide if this applicant who says they are an artist is an artist or not. And we're going to rely on them.
As a follow-up actually to that question, is there in place any kind of scoring criteria for the arts selection committee that you have in place yet or that you will have in place?
Scoring?
We didn't find it necessarily to have scoring because we were just simply answering, is this person an artist, yes or no? And that was it.
So a person could have, so based on their resume and or pictures or something that they're supplying, that's the basis of whether it was something they created 10 years ago or they're creating currently, or none of that will be a factor in it. It'll be more of, or might it be?
I'm sorry, would you repeat
the
detail part?
So if, for instance, somebody, and I assume that within the household you need just one member of the household that would be an artist to qualify, is that?
Yeah, I think what we decided was one of the head of household would have to be
the head of household?
Yeah.
Okay. And if, for instance, that head of household has a resume that shows, I went to school for the arts, here's some examples of work that I have done. I actually haven't done anything in the past 10 years because I've had to fend and feed my family and I've been having another job. Would that, for instance, fit into the criteria of an artist?
It's a good question, and I think it's something that the selection committee should discuss. I think probably if you had 4 artists and one of them hadn't had time, to work, having been a single mother working artist myself, we could say this person has the potential to reconnect with their art living in an artist community. They don't have to worry about paying for a studio. They're in a community where people are encouraging each other and cross-fertilizing. So,
and I absolutely agree with that because that happened. No, I do agree with that. I would just suggest I don't know how much you've visited the concept of doing some scoring for that selection committee, but I would just encourage you to consider that from the standpoint of fair housing and defensibility of how those decisions were arrived at. So if you're looking at just saying this person is an artist or is not, I think it's a little harder to defend than if you're looking at a series of things like it's somebody who's been actively pursuing the arts, they have a commitment to the art, they have a commitment to the community, whatever it is those goals are, because then you can have some criteria by which all of your committee members can score something, and then it's defensible. And I just think from a legal perspective that is probably something you just might want to consider. But you have been doing this, and if it's been successful, not a problem. That's great. I'm just basing it on my experience from the work that I do when I'm not here.
I think it's a very good idea, and I would love to get your advice on it, because I suspect you're quite an expert at it. So maybe we can talk more about that.
I'm happy to chat with you about it. My other question was, this is relating to your unit breakdown, and I understand tax credits and the need for the different units. I get all of that. I also know that it could be a challenge to lease 3-bedroom units, in particular to artist households, even sometimes 2-bedroom units. Even though artists have families, I absolutely know that, but it's a lot of 3-bedroom units. So I'm just kind of wondering what your expectation is of that, or what your experience is, or how outreach might be different, or what you're considering about that.
I could answer it a little bit, and then I'll ask Michelle to. Because we've never done an artist colony here, but on our tax credit projects, this is a family tax credit project. The unit mix is pretty common. The 3 beds aren't always easy to lease up. At least they hadn't been in the past. At the 60% AMI level, the 50s, the 40s, 30s, we don't have any problem filling those up. But a few years ago, our 60% 3-bed, it was below market, but not vastly below market. I think now it's far enough below market that it wouldn't be difficult. Then
so it's the cost of the unit as opposed to the qualifying income was the challenge, or am I mishearing that?
For some people, they don't want to go through the hassle of submitting all that paperwork and having to go through everything that we subject them to get one of these units when they think, I can get a different unit for a few $100 more. That's really not the case anymore, though. But then the second part of that question is specific to art. The art project, and I would ask Michelle, since she's had experience with art projects before.
As you know, there's a large family threshold in California, and what I mean by that is if you apply for tax credits, you have to pick a housing type, and it's an exclusive housing type. It's senior or family or special needs. In this case, the city, everybody was interested in having it be a family project. In order to receive the tax credits, you have to have 30% of your units be 3 bedrooms or larger, which was the threshold that we met here. So that's by way of explanation, and then the question is, okay, what's the marketability of those particular units? San Pedro, I will admit that at San Pedro, some of the 3 bedrooms have gone to just straight low-income households. But there are also artists in there as well so it's kind of a mixed bag is the answer, I think. But San Pedro is, I think, a smaller community than Glendale.
You'll draw from a broader region here than you would in San Pedro. It's pretty specific. And my last question, I don't take up a lot of time. So you had mentioned with the outreach through the Affordable Housing Partnership, through our commission, other resources. So are you contracting independently with the Actors Fund? And I ask this because I know that grant was under the City of Los Angeles, and so I wasn't sure how they were participating.
Yes, okay. I asked them the same question.
Okay.
Is it okay if we do this in Glendale? And they said it absolutely has no borders. So that partnership can be used here for the City of Glendale as well, and any other municipality really that the Actors Fund can reach in terms of outreach.
Which is great, and I will say, and I'll disclose. I mean, I've been a partner to the Actors Fund through my organization, and we were part of that through that grant and everything. So just by way of disclosure on that, but I wanted to just encourage you too, because I think they're an amazing organization. They can just bring in droves of folks that are in the entertainment industry, whether they're above the line or below the line, running the camera, actors, it doesn't matter. They're in the entertainment district. They're not as tapped into the visual arts community
Agreed.
Right, and so because you've worked with them, so you know that. So I think to the extent working with the County Arts Commission and with others that, and folks in our own community that really know artists and are able to get that outreach, I think you will tap into folks that you might not otherwise reach.
Yes, and it was a very sincere request that when we go to advertise for the outreach and education campaign that will happen in January and February, I really want that to go out to your own listservs as well as listservs that of organizations that you partner with. And Maureen, I think, is also gathering a database of organizations that we can access. And we anticipate having that material. It's already August. I'm going to say in a couple of months we'll have the material as well as a website for the development itself.
And I just, because I brought up just that disclosure with your suggestion or nomination with regard to sitting on the panel, I also want to say that I'm going to actually decline on that because I feel a little too close to your organization and all of that through the organization that I work for. So I'd rather just kind of keep a little distance on that. If you,
it's okay because this was just a recommendation, and next meeting we'll talk about it, and then we'll consider somebody else again who is very eager and very involved. I see Cindy Cleary's hand on this, and let's give a chance to her.
And on that note of, I need a little clarification. I'll address this to Mr. Fortney. So we had a little conflict in language between our report and our agenda item as it was stated on the agenda.
Okay.
And the report says that you're looking to the commission to appoint an artist to the committee, and then the agenda says a member of the commission. So I just want to make sure that you're looking for a member of the commission, and I think everyone's grateful that or appreciative of you saying you would love 2 members of the commission on that.
Yeah, so that was what we had envisioned for quite a while now is a member of the YMCA, a city staff person. That's back when we had Annette, who worked on issuing the RFP. So somebody from Y, somebody from the city, somebody from Meta, somebody from Engage, and then a 5th person that would be a community member, somebody from the community, but somebody that the Arts Commission would recommend to us, or they might recommend 2 or 3 names, and then we could approach them. If that 5th person is somebody on the commission, I'm perfectly open to that. And I hadn't considered 2, but I'm frankly quite open to that as well. And then I guess I would question whether the need for a city employee to be on that commission, to be on that selection committee, if we had 2 commissioners. So kind of something to think about and kick around. But whether it be somebody from the community or whether it be somebody that's actually serving on a commission, I don't think. I think I'm taking your advice.
Well, the idea is that basically commissioners, they are not employees and they are not paid staff. They represent both the council, the city, and the community. So they could be a very good advocate in that issue. So that's why the recommendation was instead of introducing an artist, we would have 2 commissioners to help you with the project and with the decisions made.
Yeah, because we need somebody that can judge whether or not
yes.
the person that says they're an artist is in fact
that's
an artist.
Correct.
The other thing I noticed on the report that I'd like to just make one correction to would be the person, and it's not you, Chuck, it was me, I think I told you this. It doesn't have to be somebody that wouldn't income qualify for the project. It would just have to be somebody that wouldn't apply to the project. Right.
So let me make sure that I'm understanding, because it sounds like we'll bring this back next month to make an appointment if that works with your time schedule.
Yeah, I think that works.
So we're saying that you would like an artist from the community, and it could be somebody on the commission, correct?
Yeah.
Or also a commissioner who may not be per se an artist. So we have 2 people that the commission is recommending?
Yeah, I want to talk to some of the folks back in the housing department, but I'm open to either of those, whether it be 2 commissioners, 2 people from the community, or 1 and 1. I'm open to that. And then again, I would have to question whether or not we would need that city employee.
So, okay, so for today, then we'll just assume that whatever motion we're going to bring forward will be at the next meeting after we all clarify that.
I think we have time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next item, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I say one thing about the selection committee? The wider the disciplines represented, the easier it'll be, because sometimes it's very difficult for a visual artist to determine whether someone is really a literary artist or a poet. So I just wanted to put that in. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your support.
Thanks for coming and sharing. It's really important, and I'm sure our community would get a lot of information from whatever you guys have provided. Thank you. Next item, please.
5A2, motions recommending commission approve the 2 artists to recreate their utility box murals and provide stipends for both artists.
Okay. Do I have a motion on that?
What's the issue?
I have a question before we...
Okay.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. Why?
All right. I can...
Chuck, would you please, or Cindy, would you like to?
Yeah, in the interest of time, I'm going to make this as short as possible. So basically, we had 2 utility boxes that were painted. One was, they were both in Montrose. One was inadvertently, it was a county box that was inadvertently painted. There was a store owner that didn't appreciate it, and so the county came in and painted over it. The second one was also in Montrose. It was a city box, but they replaced the box, unbeknownst to us that this was going to happen. I mean, no fault of anyone.
They just took the box out.
And on that side of the coin, it was really, really a nice surprise from the community that the residents in the area complained that the box wasn't painted anymore. So what we're doing here today is just asking that we be given the $750 per box to find new spaces. Well, actually, the telephone box would be in the same location on a new box, and we'd find a new location for the other box.
On that one, can you go with?
Yes.
Do I have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion.
Secondly, thank you. That's taken care of. Okay, next.
5A3.
Sorry. Let's do the roll call.
Sorry.
Thanks first.
Commissioners Deaver,
Yes.
Oshagan,
Yes.
Sahakian,
Yes.
Sharikian,
Yes.
Chairperson Derhavanesian.
Yes. Next item.
5A3, motion to allocate $1,000 for repair of utility box murals as needed.
On that one, I have a motion.
If you don't have
Any
questions,
explanation?
do you need an
Are
explanation?
those repairs like mechanical repairs, or
I'm going to turn that one over to Chuck because he has more experience.
We've had 3 boxes that had some amount of graffiti on them, and our graffiti removal people in neighborhood services got the graffiti off to the best of their ability, but in doing so, they took off the top coat, the protective coat, and they recommended that we clean the box, reapply the protective coat so that if this happens again, it won't destroy if they have to clean it up again. So there's this liquid top coat that needs to be purchased, maybe, from time to time, certainly for the 2 of the boxes that we have. And then we're suggesting, working with our GYA group, to put the staff out there to clean them up. Our graffiti removal folks, they don't repaint, they clean off, but that's what we're asking for.
Doc, thank you. I'm sorry that, I thought since the information was provided, I thought you all were aware of the details of it. Otherwise, I would have asked for the explanation. So based on that, do I have a motion on that one as well?
I motion.
I second.
Approve.
Okay, thank you. So that motion is carried. Next. Roll call, please. I'm rushing into because I'm checking the time and I see we have so many other important issues left. Yes. Okay,
Commissioners Deaver,
Yes.
Oshagan,
Yes.
Sahakian,
Yes.
Sharikian,
Yes.
Chairperson Derhavanesian.
Yes.
At 5A4, motion to approve 2015-2017 Arts and Culture Commission Work Plan.
Sorry. So as you know, we've spent several months discussing the 15-17 work plan. At the end of June, that was the completion of the 13-15 work plan, and as you know, as we've gone over at several meetings, that was great success. Our final meeting, or our last meeting talking about the work plan, was held as a special meeting on April 29th, 2015. Once the work plan is approved by you, then it will go to City Council for approval. And staff at that point will draft requests for proposals so that in some cases consultants will manage the program. And at that point the Commission will have the opportunity to further develop programming details. But as you all know, we did spend quite a bit of time talking about the scope of each program, and today really isn't the day to kind of go back to that since we've had a lot of discussion. It's more to talk about the budget as proposed. A recommended timeline for what's happening in 15-17 is included in your packet. I think it's Exhibit 2. And if you have questions about that, we certainly will answer them as we go along. Just as a refresher, the Commission is responsible for the inclusion of arts in economic development as well as reinforcing the city's identity through arts and culture. The Commission is able to fulfill this responsibility by using resources available. We're very fortunate to have the Urban Art Program, which was created to fund the design, acquisition, installation, and maintenance of permanent and temporary public artwork, public arts programming. The 13-15 work plan allocated $360,000, and as you know, due to a couple issues, including staff capacity, we weren't able to fulfill everything in the work plan, but we did expend approximately $160,000 by the end of June. The Urban Art Fund balance at the end of 14-15, at the end of June, was approximately $3.8 million. At prior meetings in discussing the 15-17 work plan, the Commission recommended allocating up to $550,000 over the duration of the 2 years. And as proposed in the document in front of you, the total value or the total expenditure would be $440,000. Once again, at the April meeting, I think the commissioners had quite a rousing discussion about the scope of each project, and I'm certainly happy to go over that with you, but I thought today that we might focus more on the dollar amounts. We do need to divide this motion into two parts because Commissioner Sahakian will need to recuse himself related to the significant art event and his relationship with Glendale Arts. So with that, we'll segregate that particular discussion and ask Commissioner Sahakian to recuse himself.
Great, thank you. Should I repeat the relationship, or that's?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
If I could first recommend, let me introduce myself. My name is Yvette Nukin. I'm Assistant City Attorney here, and I'm just filling in for Mike Grant. So, Commission members, I just want to recommend that you state the conflict and then state that you're going to recuse yourself.
Sure. So my company, Sedna Solutions, has a contract with Glendale Arts for services rendered. So I will not be able to participate in discussion and voting on the signature art event portion of the work plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just a little review of where we are with the signature art event. The signature art event was approved in the 13-15 work plan in the amount of $50,000, and that was for the purpose of planning the program, and with the understanding that the total budget was going to be over $200,000, and that Glendale Arts, who was the selected consultant, would fundraise for the balance. Lisa Glickman from Glendale Arts was invited in February to the meeting, and she reviewed the program plan as well as the budget. I have included that in the report as Exhibit 4 for your review, just to refresh your memory on the scope of the program. At the April special meeting, we did discuss the possibility of extending the funding for that program in recognition that the $200,000 was the full program, and $60,000 was the number that was discussed. I don't think there was uniform consensus on the commission at that time. So, unlike the other projects, at this point, I think it deserves a little more discussion. So once again, the proposal was $30,000 in the first year and $30,000 in the second year to be given to Glendale Arts to manage a significant art event, and that would be applied more to programming than to planning. And Ms. Glickman is with us in the audience if you do have any questions.
If you don't have any questions, let's discuss about the amounts and to see if we come to an agreement on how much we can be able to participate, as it was discussed in the prior meeting. Anyone wants to discuss that? Basically, what we are talking at this meeting is the amounts, and the rest is already has been discussed with us.
And I will turn your attention to Exhibit 1, which does outline the overall budget that we came up with at the retreat in April. And that does include the signature art event with the proposal of $30,000 over each year. But that puts it in the context of the entire
Which would make a
work plan
total
budget.
of?
For that particular program, the total would be $110,000, so it would be 50, 30, plus 30.
My question will be, in the past, how long ago we've done a plan like this? 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
The last plan that we did was for 13-15.
13-15.
Yeah, so
this is technically the second time around.
Second round, right.
And the first time around, 13-15 year, was only 300,000 or 320?
360.
360. And now we're adding up to 440.
Yeah.
So roughly about 20%
right.
addition.
And the total amount, I mean, the total projected or proposed work plan we'll discuss when Commissioner Sahakian comes back. But just so you can put the signature art event in that context, absolutely, 440.
Go ahead.
Any suggestions?
Well, I'm going to just throw this out for comments. I think this had come up in other conversations, but I don't remember those comments on it or where we landed. The challenge that I have with this is that we had put out an RFP for numerous programs with set amounts, and we accepted those based on those budgets. And so I understand the circumstances of an extended time period for which the fest is, I guess, in terms of when it's going to be produced, and so it makes sense in terms of the timeline of our budget and allocating funding in that program over the coming years. But I'm a little uncomfortable providing additional funds for a program that was approved when we didn't necessarily offer that to others that might have seemed underfunded based on what they could have done if they had those resources. And I say there's a hesitation because I know it'll be an exciting event. I think it'll be great for the Alex. It'll be great for economic development and for the city. And there's arts components to it that are cool. But I have some reservations about that. And if we had expended initially $110,000 to a signature art event, would we have envisioned something different? Would we have something else on the table? Would we have had a different type of competition? And maybe it still would have gone for this, and maybe it wouldn't have. But I feel a little uncomfortable about it. So I just want to throw that out there because I'm curious to know how others respond to that.
Thanks for sharing. Any other comments? Yes.
What was the initial RFP? It was how much? The initial one?
50.
It was 50.
50,000, yeah. 10,000 contingency, but that does not go directly to Glendale Arts.
So this doubles that amount.
Yeah, 50,000 is what would be given to Glendale Arts. And if I could just address Commissioner Deaver's comment, and I certainly appreciate it, and it's up to the commission what you decide, but we did come back to you with the utility box program and with the performing series and asked for additional money on both of those programs. You know, whether it has the same relationship as this, maybe not, but just as a reminder.
And if I might respond to that, because I understand that, but to me they were a completed series that we went and said, let's do a phase 2, let's do a phase 3 based on the successes of those. So I appreciate that, but from my perspective, it's a slightly different scenario.
I do agree that it's a little bit different because we still continued with the amounts paid to the artists for each box. We just added more boxes. It wasn't kind of to the curation and to the production from the beginning. So there's a difference in the amounts. So
The signature event will be still in 2016 September. Is that correct?
Yes. And it's the culminating event of the Alex Theater's 90th anniversary.
And I'm assuming that will be the last event of the celebration, because if it's 90th this year, so next year will be 91st technically. And that will be the last event of the celebration or the event series?
Yes. So I figured I'd come up and reintroduce myself since people were looking my way anyway. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. And in answer to your question, it will be the culminating event for the entire year. We've identified a tentative space very close to the Museum of Neon Art and the Paseo and the Central Library with its renovations to come. For the festival, we've actually hired a festival special events coordinator, Jessica Castillo. She's started with us in August. And if I might just address Commissioner Deaver's concern, part of why I think Ms. Cleary and I were discussing additional funding was because the scope had actually adjusted from the original RFP to the extent that when we applied for the program, it was really with the understanding that that money was going to be used for startup costs in the first year, getting a program coordinator on board, hiring consultants. And at the February meeting, it was suggested that people felt more comfortable if that money were to go to programming. But because we were working under the original assumption, under the original deal of this money will go, again, to build the foundation and the infrastructure for the event, and because we knew that programming was going to be an extended portion, an extended piece that the Commission was really looking for, it was my understanding that that extra funding was to address some of those concerns. So one of the things that Ms. Castillo has been working on is events leading up to the festival. We had talked about that at that February meeting. I know some of you expressed concerns about having input and having be a part of that process. So we've talked about trying to come back to the Commission in October to really lay out the entire scope of work. The entire scope of the event now that we have a full-time coordinator on board. And we have already secured funding that we are going to announce probably around that period of time to continue the process. But, you know, again, we really need that foundational building, those foundational dollars in order to move the project forward. I don't know if that completely addresses your concern. I do know that when I made my original pitch, and I think Stephen Lee was in that meeting, and I think you might have been too, I said at the time $50,000 with a $10,000 contingency is really quite low to accomplish the goals that were set forth in the RFP. We knew that going in, and Glendale Arts was willing to take that responsibility. But again, given some of the additional expectations, I think that was one of the reasons why it was batted about in April. So I hope that provides just a little bit of additional clarity. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, but you're also raising funds, matching funds. Is that what I understand? Yeah.
That's correct.
So that was the original plan also, to take the 50 or the 60, match that to make the whole budget.
Correct.
So that you need to do your event, right?
Correct. So again, it's foundational money, it's programming money leading into the event and the event itself, and we are moving forward with our own fundraising. And as I said, we have secured at least level 1 of fundraising, and then we will hire a sponsorship consultant who will deal with level 2. That being said, Ms. Cleary has asked me on several occasions, okay, $200,000 is a pretty aggressive budget. What happens if you don't hit that mark? And the reality is that the minute I hired Ms. Castillo, we committed to this event. So whether we have to scale the event based on the funds that we have available, that's something that we'll have to revisit as we go through our benchmark process, which is, again, something I think we discussed back in February, is that we've set up quarterly benchmarks for ourselves, both in event production, budgeting, and then fundraising. And if we see that we're not coming close to some of those benchmarks, then we need to pull some things off the table. And that's when we have to have not only a serious discussion internally and with our planning committee, but we also need to revisit the expectation of this commission. So I don't know if that fully answered your question.
I guess I'm not quite clear. So the original budget was around 100,000. Is that correct? That is.
No, the original budget that we proposed in the original RFP was in the neighborhood of $200,000. And again, at that time, I said, this is the budget that we're proposing given the scope that's been laid out in the RFP. We are applying for this because this is something we feel is important, both from an arts and economic development standpoint, and we think it's a great opportunity to further our relationship with the commission. But we made it very clear at that time that that was a very low dollar amount, and the reason that we needed the money sort of up front was to build the foundation so that we could, again, continue further fundraising. Again, you still have that inquisitive look, so I'm not sure if I've answered.
So the budget is the 200,000 is not changing actually, but the portion that the commission you're asking for to be allotted is increasing. But the whole budget is not. Is that what I'm saying? It could be scaled back, but it's not going up.
But it hasn't gone up, but we have made some modifications to the budget to address some of those pre-events and some of those other concerns that the commission had. So things that we had budgeted initially, we've played with a little bit so that we could do some ancillary programming ahead of time, because again, that was a major concern of this commission.
And that was like pop-up type of
correct.
Things, I recall. As a follow-up question to that, I think what I'm hearing is that and I would agree that, and I think from the beginning that it was certainly could have been more, and we were trying to figure out all of our programs
absolutely.
could have been more, frankly. But we were looking at it as seed funding, and often when you do seed funding, then it is then matched through other purposes or through other sources. And I think that's what we went into it, going, okay, if they're willing to do this, then we will seed that, and if it's a success, and we come back into another series for the next signature event, maybe we'll continue that forward. So but yeah, the budget didn't change, but that I think our expectation from the beginning was that it'll be done in the next year, and then we'll move on to something else. My other question is, are there other departments of the city itself that are looking to help fund this? Because the type of event that it is, although it is certainly arts focused, it is reminiscent of some other events that the city does through other departments. I'm curious about that.
It certainly has an economic development and some of those other departmental interests. We have not approached them yet for a variety of reasons. One, because we wanted to really see what happened with this commission. We also wanted to come back to the table after discussing with the Downtown Glendale Association and some of the other ancillary groups that have a bureaucratic slant, but aren't necessarily institutional in the sense that they're government. So we are because the Alex Theater is owned by the Economic Development Department, we are in constant conversation with them, and this is certainly part of that dialogue. Members of our planning committees work for city manager's office, work in police and fire, so we're already pulling resources from a variety of other departments so that we make sure that our policing and our fire needs, our volunteer needs, our Recs and Park needs in terms of the assets that the Recreation and Parks Department has, chairs, stages, equipment, that sort of thing. We're not necessarily looking at it in terms of hard dollars, although if anyone says, hey, I have some extra money in my budget, come take it, we won't say no. But we are looking at it in terms of tangible assets and tangible resources that we can use within the city structure.
I have comments. I do have some reservation regarding the dollar figure that we are assigning. I'm looking at it this way. If I have $100 in my pocket and I have 2 years to spend it, I wouldn't spend the whole thing the first year. So I'll leave $50 for the next year. In the budget, I'm looking at this as Exhibit 1. It says 15-16, $30,000, and 16-17, $30,000. Technically, the project will end in September of 2016. I feel comfortable to allocate the $30,000 up to that date, which will help your organization to put together this event. But the next $30,000, which will fall in 16-17, will have a chance to put a new signature event out there with limited budget. So what I'm trying to do is, I don't want to invest all my saving in one event, and the term, it ends anyway in 2017. So therefore, my motion will be is to split this $60,000, leave the $30,000 to help organize and put together the signature event up to September 2016, and the next $30,000, which will fall 16-17, will have a new signature event out there. We'll try a new program. If this idea comes, I don't know, it makes sense to me. That's what I come up with.
To comment on that, I think if you're, and I understand where you're going with that, because we would then at that point be in the planning of either a Fest 2 or something else or whatever it might be. 30,000 would be nothing. And so if we're going to be talking about that, then we should be saying clearly to do a large festival, whether it's this or something else, is going to be a minimal of $100,000 to start if we're not just seeding it. So in which case then we're in a conversation about not 30,000 and 16-17, not allocated to this project, but set aside for seeding the next project, which might not actually happen until 17-18.
Yeah.
The following plan.
And my suggestion is,
well, if I may, I think some of the reasoning and the rationale behind that is that to create a signature event, you just don't want it to be a one-hit wonder. You want it to have a longevity, and that was the whole notion behind a marquee signature event. And that's what this is. And the additional monies going into the following fiscal year, because actually our event is scheduled to take place in the following fiscal year. But to, again, continue that foundational growth moving into the second year so that we can leverage the successes that we had in year one, work out some of the kinks, and then again use some of that foundational support to continue the growth and continue the adjustments that need to be made so that it does have a longevity beyond year one, year two. I don't want to speak for city staff, but that was part of our initial conversation, if I recall.
I have a question.
Okay.
Am I?
Well, my understanding, since the program was happening in 16-17, that still there were expenses to pay in that year for direct programming.
Correct. All of those things are true.
Yeah.
Can I sum up something? So let's talk about, we talked about basically here it is 30,000 now, 30,000 later. Understanding that this project would end actually would be at its flourishing by the time we have paid the first 30. So the idea is that, let's go with the dollar amounts. If the commission accepts to go with having $30,000 for this project, and then we could proceed with that. Because we cannot talk about what happens next after that, what signature event, how much money we need to sit on that, and etc. Basically, you feel comfortable to pay $30,000 for this project, and later on talk about different projects in mind. If that is the situation, then we are talking about the $30,000 more or less discussed here on this commission, so we could finalize it.
Before I give the vote on that, I would love, if I have the right to ask, do we have any type of numbers report, what kind of fundraising you've done till now? Or have we matched anything? And the reason I'm asking is, what have we accomplished till today? And did we do 50,000, 30,000, 10,000, and how much we spent so we can know, okay, we're on the right track.
If you're talking specifically about this project,
yes.
I cannot make any public announcements at this moment because we're still in final negotiations on our secondary title sponsor. So obviously the City of Glendale, the Arts and Culture Commission would be the title sponsor at this point. We have another group that's coming in as a secondary sponsor. I just hired staff on August 1st with the expectation that this project was going to move forward. And so we are in the designing phase as we speak. That being said, Glendale Arts over the last 3 years has had a very successful fundraising record. And so if you can extrapolate our successes on the Glendale Arts side, especially as they pertain to Alex Theater and programming, I think that you can see what our potential is, especially now that we have a designated staff person and it's not me doing this as 2% of my job. We have someone who this is 80% of her job. And we are drafting an RFP currently to pursue a sponsorship consultant, which will bring in national, our expectation is that whoever takes on that role will bring in national brands, national partners, as well as pull in some of our local resources. So in answer to your question, I cannot give you a fundraising report now, but as I said, and again, it's sort of, we're all taking a leap of faith here. My board is taking a leap of faith. I'm taking a leap of faith. The commission's taking a leap of faith that everything that we've said that we can accomplish is accomplishable. So we're all kind of jumping in the same pool together and with the expectation that we'll be extraordinarily successful. And we don't have a track record that says, that is contrary to that assertion.
Maybe you've shared this information in the past with regard to your internal budget. I know that there's the arts, and it was outlined in here, the different arts components. There's the chalk art component, there's the music component, there's the independent artists that would be doing some mentorship and things like that, these different art sectors. Do you have a budget breakdown for the costs of each of those segments?
There was an original budget and a slightly tweaked budget that was presented with the original RFP and then was re-presented back in February. And I know that city staff has reviewed it extensively. If I recall, do you have a copy of it?
No, I don't.
If I recall, again, in the first year, we had some initial setup costs, branding, marketing, websites, et cetera, which will not be ongoing expenses. We allocated somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $50,000 in internal staff costs, including a full-time coordinator and some part-time personnel. We allocated another $25,000 to $30,000 for the sponsorship consultant, and then we had artist fees for both the performance stages, which were the bulk of the expenses, to be perfectly honest. And then we also have a proposal from one of your already existing partners, Arts for the Ashes Productions, to assist us with coordinating some of the artists, merchants, and artists market space. So those are just sort of loose numbers because I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. I have 4 different budgets floating in my mind at the moment. But overall, the bulk of our expenses, as I said, are either setup costs, staffing costs in the center, and then artist fees being sort of at the top rung. The one sort of outstanding piece that we didn't know at that time were what our rental costs were going to be and what our city partnerships were going to be. So again, looking back at what city resources we can leverage to reduce our overall expenditures. I don't know if that fully answers your question. Oh, I'm never going to see that. She gave me the budget on a phone. I am far too old to be able to read numbers on a phone.
Can she read it?
I know. Hold on one second. Let me grab my glasses. Okay. So overall, our anticipated income between sponsorships, vendors' fees, and in-kind support, we're looking at a $214,000 overall income. Things like equipment rental and staging, we estimated came in at about $20,000. Day of event labor, we're looking at about $9,000. Production staff, which is the part-time, full-time staff that I mentioned, we're looking at about $42,500, which is not bad. I said $45,000. Outside consultants, as I said, that number is about $25,000. Artist fees, which we're looking at the entertainers for both the secondary and the main stage, we've budgeted somewhere in the neighborhood between $60,000 and $70,000. Permits and fees, we're looking at about $7,000. Marketing, we're looking at $40,000. Miscellaneous expense, we're looking at about $3,500. Overall, it's a $210,000 budget. So we do anticipate a small contingency left over at the end. It's pretty tight. But as I said, we have established very clear benchmarks for ourselves. So if we're not hitting those, then we can take a lot of this and scale this back. I hope that helps clarify that a little bit. Are there any other questions?
Well, based on whatever I hear is that I can see that you guys can raise the money very easily and very well.
Well, no fundraising is easy peasy, but
for you guys, for Glendale Arts and the reputation that it has in the community, I'm sure, and you would allow other corporations and other city departments to participate as well.
Absolutely.
To feel that they are joining the event as much as we do. So having that, let's go on the dollar amount so that we could proceed with the rest of our thing. So what we had as a proposal was that could we go, if we go with what you said, Commissioner Shurikian, if we go with the 30,000, should we go with that, or do we go with 30 and 30, or just we want to reduce it, we add it? Let's finalize.
Well, I did make a motion technically when I opened my statement to have the $30,000 the 15-16 fiscal year, whereas the 16-17 fiscal year. That's another discussion. That's another discussion.
So your proposal was, your motion was to go for $30,000 to cover for the expenses. Do I have a second on that?
Let me just clarify. Yeah, the motion would include that that $30,000 be expended in 15-16?
Yes, up to the event, I assume.
So we go for 30. Is there? So let me understand. So is there another 30 after that, or do we go with 30,000 by the accomplishment or by the finishing of the project, which is going to be in 2016?
My motion will be clearly up to the event. Let's spend or give the money the $30,000, which I think will be fair enough for us and them to have to spend the money, and that will give us the $30,000 additional for the following year. We'll discuss it. We'll discuss later on.
Yeah, that's not part of. So, for the motion that we go for $30,000 to Glendale Arts to as our kind of participation in that event, do I have the second?
Yeah, I seconded.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioners Deaver?
No.
Oshagan?
Yes.
Shurikian?
Yes.
Chairperson Derhovanesian?
Yes.
Are we clear?
Sorry, let me clarify what we were clarifying. I'm going to say it out loud just so we're on the same page. So what we're saying is that for this motion, we're only voting on the signature art event, and what I'm hearing is a motion is being put forth to include in the budget $30,000 for the 15-16 year, and when Commissioner Sahakian comes back, that will be taken care of, and all we'll be looking at are all the other items on.
Yes.
Okay. Is that acceptable?
I'm sorry, we just wanted to clarify because when Commissioner Sahakian comes back, we cannot discuss the recommended budget for 16-17 as it pertains to the signature art event. So if that needs to be voted on right now, it should be discussed right now.
No. Oh, yes. Okay, then.
It was voted and taken care of, I think.
So, I'm sorry, we were conferring. So a motion is on the table. Can someone state the motion? Should we start all over again?
We took a vote.
Yeah, we took
already
a vote
took a
now.
vote.
Okay.
The motion
We
is,
did, and then we took a
And
vote.
the vote was?
Please read.
Yes.
Sorry, we were conferring. Okay, thank you.
Question.
I'm just confused. So that I understand what just happened. So we only had one vote, and it had to do with the allocation specifically to the signature art event. And when the commissioner returns, we won't talk about that number. But if the conversation comes up about the year 16-17 with regard to a signature art event, if more money, is that something that needs to be discussed now or later? Or
members of the commission, if it pertains to specifically Glendale Arts,
yeah,
that is where the conflict lies, and that cannot be discussed with the Commissioner Sahagin's presence. Thank you.
Yeah, but as it's discussed for signature events, we have many different plans. That is not a part of the work plan for the time being. That's going to be discussed in the future, and in the future we'll work on that. So far, this is what we have, and then the rest would be the budget amounts for all the other projects that we have already approved.
Commissioner Deaver is looking, it's like, I think the purpose of today is to talk about the plan as it's proposed here. So if we wanted to add anything to this plan, that's at another meeting.
Okay, so if as I heard earlier, there's an interest in allocating money in 16-17 as part of this budget that would go to council for whatever a signature art event is, whether it's Fest 2 or it's something else, that we can't plug a new number into that budget for that program.
if it relates to Glendale Arts. If it doesn't relate to Glendale Arts, then
No,
You can, but my suggestion is not to today.
Yes.
Because of the element of time.
Sure.
But if you'd like to bring it back next time as an addition to what we're proposing today, we can do that and add it to the work plan before we bring it to council.
Well, but I have an issue. While we were discussing this, we discussed the fact that whatever we plan for the future is for the future, and that 30,000 that is remaining is not for specifically anything. That could be going back to our saving accounts, so that when we are planning the next signature event, then we are going to come with a proposal with the whole amount of what we consider would be the expenses. So that 30 has nothing to do with what the council is going to approve.
Right, but you have enough money to expend in 2016-17 year, if this went forward as it is.
With your vote, that 30,000 has become zero.
Yes. That I want to make sure that it's clear to everyone, so there will be no question later on, unless you want.
With our vote, that didn't come zero. That's how I understood.
the second 30,000.
The 30,000.
In 16-17,
17.
we have a
For
budget of 15
for the
to
signature
16
art
to
event.
30.
Yes, but
Now they became
We are talking
No,
with Glendale
okay.
Arts signature event, we are allocating 30,000. The rest, what we will decide and how we will decide, has to do with another work plan and deciding what is the
Yes,
volition
we
of the
can put in-
commission and how much is going to be spent. It could be Glendale Arts or it could be other, so that would be
Something
another
new
story.
subject. Okay,
So
okay.
that is different. So at this point, as Cindy mentioned, that is basically $30,000, and that's where we stop for the time being. Correct? Do we all agree again? Because I don't want any
that's what we voted
misunderstanding. We voted on that and we
Yes.
agreed upon.
yes, I think that's
So
clear.
I see still.
It's fine. We can. I mean, you don't stop for me. I feel like we don't have money in that budget as it stands. And just if it comes up, I'm just unclear whether we need to bring that up next month if we want to put something in there under a different program.
we can
Nonetheless,
bring it
I don't
up.
want to hold it
Yeah,
up. If everybody's good, that's fine.
We can bring it up
But
in next year sometime.
No, but.
Well, this budget, I'm just talking about the budget. The budget, if it doesn't come up, my understanding is that right now we have nothing budgeted in terms of money for 2016-17. If we were to we could discuss a Fest 2 or another program all we want, but we will have no money allocated to it for that year unless we talk about it at another meeting with regard to plugging in money for that.
Yeah, I think we can put it on the
Makes
agenda,
sense.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just want to
let's-
make
we
sure
just-
we're
yeah,
clear
that's
about
fine.
that.
Put it on
that's
the
all.
agenda.
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda.
I just want to make sure that was clear because I wasn't hearing that consistently, I didn't think. But that could have been me.
Okay, so if we are all clear on that,
We're clear,
okay,
yes.
let's go.
Let's move on.
Should we go to the next item?
there is concern that there's still some misunderstanding about what we're saying. So let me say it one more time so I make sure everybody's understanding. If you look at Exhibit 1 and you look at Signature Art Event, there's $30,000 in the 15-16 budget, and there's $30,000 in the 16-17 budget. So what we're saying is that the $30,000 in the 15-16 budget will remain, but the 16-17 budget becomes zero.
Yes.
Is
That's
that
not,
everyone's
That's not what I said.
Okay. So
That's not what I said. I said, let's leave $30,000 for future motion, something different. I did not say to zero it out. All I said is let's have the $30,000, but
For this signature art event with Glendale Arts.
With Glendale Arts.
With Glendale Arts signature art event only, 30,000 does not get allocated for 16-17. That's what you wanted. That's what you said, right? That's what I voted for.
I guess
They're
I'm mixing up
talking
between
about-
signature art event,
No.
Glendale art.
With
Glendale Arts.
Glendale
Only
Arts.
Glendale Arts.
Okay.
Only Glendale Arts,
Only-
yeah?
Okay. Then yes, I agree with you. Signature event, Glendale art, 2016-17. There is no budget.
We talk about if there is
Glendale
another
Art.
project coming up. Clear? Okay,
Good.
good.
I
Okay.
think we're set.
Okay, good.
So everybody is kind of in agreement, kind of. Okay, and even I have a nod, even though she abstained for the vote. Okay, thank you. So that's done. Can we go to next item, please?
Are we going to discuss the
we have
total
to
amount,
invite-
or are we going
We
to?
have to invite Sean back.
We are talking about the rest of the work plan budgets. Ms. Cleary?
So we're going to discuss this budget now, the rest of this budget.
Let's bring back Commissioner Sakian and Ms. Cleary. Let's get ready for the second part. How much time do we have, Chuck? Because
We still have
you.
the special meeting?
yeah, there's going to be a special meeting too. That's why I don't know how that works. How much can we extend our time with the TV?
I could ask.
Sorry, it took too long. I'm sorry. We thought it would be a short yes or no. Okay, Ms. Cleary, let's go on with the.
All right, assuming we have 15 minutes, what I would suggest is that we go through each line and look at the budget amount. And these budget amounts are what we discussed at the retreat. And at the end of a very long evening, I think these are the amounts that we came to agreement on. And so today's purpose is to put forth a motion to approve these amounts to bring to City Council for their approval. If you, as I said before, if you'd like me to go through what each program is, I'm happy to do that. Or if we need more time, we can bring this back to the next meeting. So I'll start with just going through each one and saying what we discussed at the retreat. And you know, I'll emphasize that these numbers, I think everybody was there was consensus on all these numbers. The only one that there wasn't consensus on was the signature art event, just to refresh everyone's memory. And I know we have a new commissioner and you may have questions. So if we perhaps could go through each one and I get a general, I mean, if there are questions, then we'll deal with the questions. But if I don't hear questions, I'll assume that we're going to vote on the numbers presented. Does that sound like a
Does that sound
plan?
okay with you guys? The other suggestion was if you want more time on it, we could have it for the next meeting, agendize it for next meeting, if there are any questions. These are the numbers that we all discussed at the retreat, and it was finalized. So I don't know why we should do it, but nonetheless.
Numbers-wise, I'm all okay. I mean,
So should we go with that? Is there
I don't
any
know.
questions or any comments? If not, can we have a motion on approving whatever numbers we already talked at the retreat, and it's here printed as well?
the only question I would have is the one that we are putting for consultants. For example, the murals and city property consultant, the pop-up arts and culture events consultant. So those are dollar figures that we are investing on a consultant, not on the program itself.
On both. The
On both.
consultant would get a budget, and then that would
Applies
be fees
to
for them
program.
and also apply to the
Okay,
program.
okay.
So with that, do I have a motion on that?
I have one question. When is the PAMP, the Permanent Acquisition of Permanent Art budget going to be? I don't recall what the decision is on. When is that going to be clarified or specified?
Yeah, I have a little good news, and that is that hopefully in the next month or so we are going to be hiring another staff person to assist with the Arts and Culture Commission, and that will help us expedite the programming that we do. That person, once hired, will be, their first assignment will be to start the Public Art Master Plan process. So I think the range was, it could take from 6 to 9 months, depending on what the scope of that plan will be, and we'll bring it back to you for deciding what the scope is. But I would anticipate, if all goes well with the hiring, that we could begin the process in November, and hopefully be done by the end of the fiscal year. Does that answer your question?
Yes, excellent. Excellent news on the new staff member. We need one.
We do.
Everybody does.
Now, having said that, do we have a motion on this?
I'll put the motion.
Okay, good. You're very good with it.
No, the reason is I just want to be
Yes,
realistic.
you're right.
The numbers looks fine for me at this point.
And we have
We can
discussed-
discuss all the details in the next future meetings. But from previous years, fiscal year, which was about 360, and we have roughly about 20% addition on it, or 15% roughly, so we have around 440.
410.
410. I think it's a good addition, and the programs that I see here pretty much represents our opinion, our ideas, and the budget, we might be able to go up and down, maybe a few dollars here and there, but I think overall it's in good numbers.
Okay.
Second.
Very good. So it's seconded, so we'll approve all the dollar amounts that is already discussed. Okay, let's have a roll call.
Commissioners Deaver,
Yes.
Oshugan,
Yes.
Sahakian,
Yes.
Sharikian,
Yes.
Chairperson Derhovanesian.
Yes.
I'm going to suggest that because we're doing a special meeting, that we hold off on staff comments until the end of the special meeting.
Sounds good, okay. So we'll adjourn the present meeting.
We still have an item.
Written communications.
Okay. She said we are removing it to the end of the special meeting.
No, I'm sorry, is the business item B1, was that moved?
The update on the cowboy hat.
My apologies.
Sorry, Kalas.
Next agenda item, or
Yes.
do we have to have it today? Because we are short of time, and he specifically has to talk about the one that is on the special meeting item. So let's postpone that for the next meeting, if there is no problem. And the comments that we all have, we could also postpone for the following meeting. Okay, with that, can I adjourn now? Okay, I do adjourn the present meeting of August 20th, regular meeting of August 20th, 2015.